Case, let's go to you first, man. Bold prediction for this season, given the fact that it is early.
Oh, it's early. I had Canadian teams on my mind today, and I thought, why not double down on my kind of bullish take on the Vancouver Canucks this year? And I am going to say, I'll give the light display in the background for the visual watchers.
There we go.
Elias Pettersson will win the Hart this year. That is my bold prediction. I'm gonna go into it here, and it's gonna be a lot of stats, but I'm so high on this player. I was high on him right away. I picked him to win the Calder in the year that he came in. He did that, and I've just been following him ever since. Big fan of his. Last year, 80 games played, 39 goals, 63 assists, 102 points. That's 10th in the league for points. He had 74 hits, 89 blocks, 56 takeaways, 47 giveaways, and was a plus 16 on a non-playoff team. 20 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time is the 13th most as a forward in the league. Only JT Miller was more than him, and it was by seconds. They played a lot together. He was 7th in Selke voting, 8th in Bing, 18th in the Hart, although I think he deserves more and probably would be more if his team was a playoff team. Mm-hmm. And God, this guy he's fun to watch. Kind of the reasons why I think that he's going to be a Hart this year, the Hart winner rather, is last year was just the start for him for scoring. He has a lethal shot. His release is, unique, really. It's just effortless, and I love to watch it. It looks like he's not putting anything into the shot, but it's going 100 miles an hour. And that shot, he's electing to use more. Last year, his shot attempts were 489. The year before, 387 in the same amount of games. That's an increase of 102 more shot attempts this year, or last year. 28 of his goals, of his 39 goals, 28 of them were even strength, 40 even strength assists. 5 of his goals were shorthanded, and 6 of them were on the power play. I expect more power play goals and points from this, top unit of Pettersson, Miller, Besser, Hughes, Kuzmenko. They're all looking dangerous so far this year. He already has 4 power play points compared to his 25 last year. Kind of the next point is that he's just such an all-around player. We saw that in the Selke and Bing and Hart voting last year. But kind of despite being a relatively slight player at 176 pounds, he throws the body around. 74 hits last year was massive for the size of him. And we've already seen one catastrophic hit on Cece this year. And there was a pretty big one in the preseason on, I think it was Lane Pettersson, also on Edmonton. So I guess maybe he just hates Edmonton. Who knows? But he throws the body around. I love to see that. 89 blocks last year was second most after Matthews by a forward. And the guy is smart with the puck. 47 giveaways is quite low for someone who has the puck as much as him. McDavid, for example, 77, Draisaitl 102, Kucherov 98, and 109 for David Pastrnak, just to kind of name the top point getters in the league last year. Mm-hmm. One of the next points, or the penultimate point I'm going to make here, is he'd be much higher in the voting last year if it wasn't for his team being outside the playoffs. And I think it's going to be a playoff team this year. Last year, the save percentage was second last in the league. Demko is back. He was sick this week, but his first game looked great. They had a great second half under Tocchet last year. They're 20-12-4, and they have a hot start so far this year, beating Edmonton 8-1 and 4-3. And that's the team that's supposed to win their division. So hot start. And then the last point is, it's his year. He's got to go off. Contract year next year. He's going to be looking for the bank. So I'm pretty high on Pettersson. I'm expecting 45 goals, 65 assists this year, 110 points, and a Hart Trophy as his team makes the playoffs. Pretty bold take, but I'm happy about it.
So I just want everyone to let it be known that Casey thinks the downfall of Connor McDavid is on the horizon. He will not win the Hart Trophy this year. He will not even sniff the top of the scoring charts. That's what Casey's saying.
Yeah,
right?
That's definitely what I said when I said bold take. No, obviously it's bold because guys like McDavid and Pastrnak and Jack Hughes have much higher odds, especially according to Vegas, to win the Hart. And obviously, McDavid is like a shoe-in every single year. My bold take, my hot take, is that Pettersson's going to be there. And if not, I expect him to be top 3.
Yeah, I was just teasing because obviously McDavid is he's like a lock almost for all like the big trophies, the Art Ross, even the Rocket last year. Like I feel like he has more Rockets in him, and then the Hart Trophy, which he's won countless times. Similar to a Crosby who just kind of owned all the awards for like a decade. I feel like we're in Connor McDavid's decade, but that's what makes this a bold take. Or a bold prediction, and I could see it, honestly. If McDavid takes a little bit of a step back, doesn't get 150 plus points, same with Draisaitl, same with an Austin Matthews if he doesn't score 60 goals or something, then yeah, I could see a player like Pettersson taking a step, scoring more, getting more power play points. I like that point you made, Case, because I think their power play is going to be a lot better this year. Or even a player like Kirill Kaprizov, who these are guys who aren't surrounded as well as some other superstars and sort of are able to just do it themselves. And those two specifically stand out to me. So I could see it happening. I think it is a bold take, but I could definitely see it.
Yeah, I could as well. I mean, this is not the only time that we've talked about Elias Pettersson and what a big year this is for him. And I think that this is going to be a massive year. And I think that the biggest thing that sticks out to me about Pettersson is that he looks bigger, he looks stronger, he's out there to cause havoc. And on top of being a great offensive talent and doing everything he possibly can to help his team to win. And I do agree. I think that it's very likely that this Canucks team is a playoff team. Case, you're not the only one to say that, but Pettersson in a contract year, the step that he took last year, and the way that he's looked through the first couple of games of the season, I know it's early, but really in the last couple of years, like we've seen wide open Hart Trophy races for a good first chunk of the season, and then McDavid just finds a way to go off and lock it down. But I'd be willing to put some money on Pettersson kind of being a dark horse pick for the Hart. I think he's going to have a massive year, and this is not the only time we've mentioned this.
Kind of the main point I'm trying to make here is it's going to be a similar in Taylor Hall, not quite as much because Pettersson has a much better team around him than Taylor Hall did in 2017, 2018, that season.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this is a team that for the most part is not expected to make the playoffs by, a lot of the media and everyone in Vegas even. He's going to push them over the edge and get them into a playoff spot. And I think that there is a tendency sometimes to kind of look away from McDavid scoring 120 points and getting in the playoffs again and look towards someone who's really carrying in a different way. Like McDavid should win every year because he is the most valuable player in the entire league. He should win the Ted Lindsay every year as well. But I think that sometimes they kind of try to look for someone else. They try to look for a player who's, really stepped up in one season, kind of similar to Taylor Hall. So,
and the award is most valuable player to your team.
Yeah.
So if, McDavid, say he has 125 points, he had, I think, 153 last year or something. So
he just did last year. I'm not like...
Yeah. So say he has like 125, but Draisaitl also has around that same range, then, you can make the argument that maybe he's not even the most important to his team for this season, whereas a player like I mentioned Kirill Kaprizov, who isn't surrounded to the same extent, if he drags his team to the playoffs, and of course I mentioned Kaprizov because he's in a similar situation as Elias Pettersson, if they're able to drag their team to the playoffs and be the most important piece to their team, then that goes a long way in terms of voting. So
yeah.
That's why it is feasible. It's not that bold, actually, especially if McDavid has a bit of a down year. And as long as no one scores, 60 to 70 goals, but I could see it happening.
I'm sure the YouTube comments are going to love this part where you mentioned that if McDavid had similar points to Draisaitl, maybe he's not the most important important to his team.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of voting, at least, the argument could be made. Because Draisaitl will likely have more goals. I mean, except for last year, Draisaitl outscored McDavid almost every year of their career. I mean, until he told McDavid to shoot more, and he said, okay, I'll score 64 goals. Like, he's that good. Yeah. But something I wanted to mention, too, is, just piggybacking off what you said in Rick Tocchet, how they played really well under him last year in Vancouver. I wonder if instead of looking to Elias Pettersson as a Hart Trophy candidate, they just don't look at the players at all, and they look to Tocchet as a Jack Adams candidate, because a lot of the time that's what happens. It's a team who is sort of on the bubble or not expected to make it to the playoffs, and then they get a new coach and he takes them to the promised land, or at least into the playoffs, into the first round, and then that's what is sort of a convincing argument for coach of the year. So I wonder if those two things can exist simultaneously, or how the narrative will develop throughout the season.
I like Lindy Ruff as much as the next Devils fan, but he was a finalist for the award last year, and it's mostly because his team took a huge step. Yes. And had that huge the massive point comeback from one season to another and made the playoffs. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's very likely as well. Tocchet for the Jack Adams. I think they were 20-12-2 down the stretch after he took over, and they won their first 2 games. It took them 9 games last year, fellas, for them to get their first 2 wins. The Canucks, think about that. It's a different looking team. Yeah, that's for sure, even though it's early.